The air was thick with betrayal, their smug faces burning into my soul. My parents sat there, grinning like vultures as my sister gripped a $10 million check, her laughter slicing through the silence. Then they turned to me, their words venomous, "Go scrape by on your own." It wasn't just rejection, it was a knife twisted deep, shredding every hope I'd clung to. My chest tightened, but I didn't break. I glared at the table, my pulse screaming. Suddenly, an old lawyer rose, his voice cutting the tension. "There's one more document." He held a tattered envelope, my grandfather's scrawl glaring back. Their grins shattered. My sister's eyes widened in panic. That envelope was my salvation. "I'm Sarah Mitchell. I'm 30 years old. And this is where their lies bleed out." The sting of their words still burned as I drove away from that suffocating hotel in Colorado Springs, the $10 million betrayal echoing in my skull. 10 years ago, I was a kid running through the dusty trails of our family's 5-acre plot, just a mile from Fort Carson, where my grandfather, William Mitchell, taught me to read military maps under the Colorado stars. "You've got a soldier's mind, kid," he'd say, his voice rough but warm, handing me his old compass. He was a Vietnam War hero, a colonel who saw the world in strategies and honor. I wanted to be just like him. So I joined the Air Force at 18, trained as an intelligence analyst, and shipped out to Afghanistan. But the war broke something in me. PTSD turned my nights into battlegrounds of screams and shadows. When I came home at 25, I wasn't the hero they expected. My parents, Thomas and Linda, both retired Army officers, looked at me like I was a cracked metal, unworthy of display. "You're not cut out for this family," my mother snapped once, her eyes flicking to my sister, Jessica, who was already building her empire of Instagram followers and brand deals. Jessica, 2 years older, was their golden child. She'd never seen a battlefield, but she knew how to win their approval with her dazzling smiles and polished lies. "You're just intense, Sarah," she'd say, smirking, as if my scars were a personality flaw. They celebrated her every post, her every deal, while my medals gathered dust in a drawer. I fought for this country, bled for it, but my family saw me as a failure, a ghost haunting their perfect legacy. After the will reading, I drove to the only place that ever felt like home, my grandparents' old ranch house, where the wind carried memories of William's laughter. But even that felt tainted now. "Stay to the end," I whispered to myself, gripping the steering wheel, because this is how they tried to erase me. "I'm Sarah Mitchell, and this is my war." The Colorado wind howled as I pulled up to my grandmother's ranch house, a weathered 2-story structure perched on a half-acre of rocky soil, its faded red paint peeling like old wounds. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, the echo of my parents' words, "Go scrape by on your own," still searing my chest. I'd driven these 3 miles from Colorado Springs countless times as a kid, back when this place meant safety, when my grandfather William's voice could drown out the world's cruelty. Now, it felt like stepping into a battlefield. I clutched my old Air Force dog tags, the metal cold against my palm, and forced myself to knock. The door creaked open, and there stood Eleanor Mitchell, Ellie, my grandmother, her silver hair pulled tight, her eyes sharp as bayonets. "So, you finally crawled back," she said, her voice a blade slicing through the dusk. I froze, my breath catching. "Ellie, I came after the will reading," I stammered, but her glare silenced me. "You left him to die alone, Sarah. William called for you every damn day on his deathbed." Her words hit like shrapnel, tearing open a wound I didn't know I had. "That's not true," I choked out, stepping closer, my boots crunching on the porch. "I tried to call. I came by last spring. Jessica was here, she said no one was home." Ellie's eyes narrowed, her jaw tightening like she was loading a rifle. "We were here," she spat. "Always here. Jessica fed us lies, said you were too busy rebuilding your life, that you didn't want to be bothered by a dying old man." My knees buckled, and I gripped the doorframe to stay upright. "No," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I'd never abandon him. Never." The world spun, my PTSD-fueled nightmares flashing, screams, explosions, and now this betrayal, sharper than any bullet. Ellie turned abruptly, her footsteps heavy as she disappeared into the house. I followed, the air inside thick with the scent of cedar and grief. The living room hadn't changed in a decade, same leather couch, same black and white photo of William in his colonel's uniform, his medals pinned above the fireplace. Ellie returned, clutching a worn leather journal, its edges frayed from years of use. "This is his," she said, thrusting it into my hands. "He wrote your number in it, the one he kept calling." I opened it, my fingers shaking, and saw William's blocky handwriting, a phone number, scrawled in black ink. But it wasn't mine. Not even close. "This isn't my number, Ellie," I said, my voice rising, panic clawing at my throat. "I've had the same one since basic training." She stared at the page, her face paling. "They told us you changed it," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Jessica said you didn't want us tracking you down, that you were ashamed of us, of this family's military blood." I stumbled back, my shoulder hitting the wall. "Ashamed?" I roared, the word erupting from somewhere raw. "I worshipped him. I joined the Air Force because of him." Ellie sank into an armchair, her hands trembling. "They lied to us, Sarah. To all of us." Her voice broke, and for the first time, I saw her steel facade crack, revealing a grief as deep as mine. The room fell silent, save for the ticking of the old mantel clock. Then Ellie spoke again, her words barely audible. "The funeral, they told you noon, didn't they?" I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. "It was 7 in the morning," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. "They told everyone you didn't show, that you didn't care enough to say goodbye." My vision blurred, tears spilling over. "I drove 2 hours to that church," I whispered. "It was empty. I thought I'd failed him." Ellie reached for my hand, her grip fierce. "You didn't fail him, Sarah. They stole him from you." The truth was a grenade, its shrapnel embedding deeper with every word. Jessica, Thomas, Linda, they hadn't just cut me out of the will. They'd erased me from William's final days, from his love, from his legacy. My chest heaved, rage and sorrow colliding like a storm. I clutched the journal, its pages a lifeline to the man who'd believed in me. "They won't get away with this," I said, my voice low, steady, a soldier's vow. Ellie nodded, her eyes glinting with fire. "They won't. William left something for you. Something they can't touch." The weight of Ellie's words crushed me, each syllable a fresh wound in the dim light of her living room. The journal, still open to that fake phone number, lay heavy in my hands, its pages screaming Jessica's betrayal. My parents, Thomas and Linda, had helped her build this lie, stealing my grandfather's final days from me. The Colorado night pressed against the windows, cold and unforgiving, as if the stars themselves had turned their backs. I sank onto the leather couch, my Air Force dog tags clinking softly, a reminder of the soldier I'd tried to be. "There's more," Ellie said, her voice low, almost reluctant, as she crossed the room to a small wooden chest by the fireplace. My heart thudded, dread pooling in my gut. "More?" I asked, barely above a whisper, my throat raw from tears. She knelt, her hands steady despite her age, and pulled out a dusty cassette player, the kind William used to record mission logs during Vietnam. "He left this for you," Ellie said, her eyes avoiding mine. I didn't listen to it. Couldn't bring myself to. She handed me the device, its plastic scratched and worn, along with a single cassette labeled in William's precise handwriting, "For Sarah." My fingers trembled as I pressed play, the machine whirring to life with a faint hiss. Then his voice filled the room, gravelly and weak, each word a dagger to my soul. "Sarah, it's your old man," William said, his breath labored. "I'm not doing so hot, kid. I keep calling, but you don't pick up. Where are you? I need you here. I need my soldier." I gasped, a sob ripping through me. The room spun, my PTSD clawing at the edges of my mind, gunfire, screams, and now William's fading voice, pleading for me. No, I choked, clutching the player like it could bring him back. I didn't know, Grandpa. I swear I didn't know. The tape continued, relentless. Jessica says you're busy, building a new life, he said, a cough breaking his words. I don't believe her. You wouldn't leave me like this, would you? My knees gave out, and I collapsed to the floor, the hardwood cold against my palms. Ellie stood frozen, her face pale, her hands clenched into fists. That's not all, I said, my voice shaking as I staggered to my feet, rage surging through the grief. I stumbled to the chest, desperate for answers, and found a crumpled letter tucked inside, dated 6 months ago, addressed to me in William's hand. I tore it open, my eyes scanning the faded ink. Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone, it began. Jessica told me you didn't want to see me, that you were ashamed of my old war stories. I refused to believe it, but your silence broke my heart. I wrote to you at the address Linda gave me. Did you get my letters? My breath caught. I hadn't received a single one. They'd intercepted everything, every call, every letter, every chance to say goodbye. Ellie, look at this, I said, thrusting the letter toward her. She read it, her lips trembling, then sank into the armchair, her strength crumbling. They told me you moved away, she whispered. No forwarding address. Jessica said you wanted a clean break. I screamed, a raw, guttural sound that echoed off the walls. A clean break? They erased me. They made him think I abandoned him. My hands shook, the letter crumpling in my fist. I saw it all now, Jessica's smirks, my parents' cold dismissal, their calculated plan to sever me from the one person who saw my worth. The cassette clicked off, leaving a silence that felt like death. I pressed my forehead to the floor, tears pooling beneath me. I was 2 hours away, I whispered. I could have held his hand. I could have told him I loved him. Ellie knelt beside me, her hand on my shoulder, her voice barely audible. He loved you, Sarah. Even when they tried to break that bond, he loved you. But love wasn't enough to undo the truth. I'd failed him, not because I chose to, but because they stole my chance. My rage burned hotter, a fire that wouldn't die. They'll pay for this, I said, my voice steady now, a soldier's resolve hardening in my bones. William's words echoed in my mind, I need my soldier. I'd be that soldier now, for him, for me. The Colorado dawn broke cold and gray, casting jagged shadows across Ellie's ranch house as I stood on the porch, my Air Force dog tags clenched in my fist. William's voice from that cassette still haunted me, his desperate pleas slicing deeper than any wound from Afghanistan. Jessica, Thomas, and Linda had stolen him from me, and now I burned with a soldier's resolve to make them face the truth. Ellie's call had summoned them back, her voice on the phone as sharp as a drill sergeant's, get here by 8. No excuses. I hadn't slept, my PTSD nightmares replaced by a single image, William's letter, accusing me of abandoning him. But today, I'd fight for his legacy. The living room felt like a war zone as they arrived. Jessica swept in first, her designer boots clicking on the hardwood, her face a mask of irritation. This better be quick, Ellie, she snapped, tossing her hair. Thomas and Linda followed, their faces tight, their military posture betraying unease. They didn't see me at first, standing in the corner by William's metal display, my silence a loaded weapon. Ellie, seated in her armchair, gave me a nod, her eyes glinting with fury. Robert Callahan, William's old war buddy and lawyer, entered last, his weathered hands clutching a sealed manila envelope. The air crackled with tension, every tick of the mantel clock a countdown to detonation. Callahan cleared his throat, his voice steady as he broke the seal. This is the final will of Colonel William Mitchell, recorded 6 months ago, he said, his gaze sweeping the room. In addition to the $10 million already distributed to Jessica Mitchell, there are further instructions. Jessica smirked, leaning back in her chair, but her confidence faltered when Callahan's eyes locked onto me. To my granddaughter, Sarah Mitchell, he read, I leave the Mitchell Veteran Resilience Center, a 10-acre facility in Colorado Springs, including all assets, funding, and operational rights. Furthermore, the remainder of my estate, stocks, bonds, and savings totaling $8 million, shall be divided equally between Sarah and Jessica. The room erupted. Jessica shot to her feet, her chair screeching against the floor. "What?" she screamed, her voice raw with disbelief. "The Veteran Center? That's worth millions. You promised me everything." She whirled on Thomas and Linda, her finger jabbing the air. "You said if I played the dutiful granddaughter, I'd get it all. You lied to me." Linda's face paled, her hands twisting in her lap, while Thomas adjusted his collar, a nervous tic I hadn't seen since my court-martial scare. I stood still, my heart pounding but my face a mask of steel. Their panic was my vindication. Callahan raised a hand, silencing the chaos. "There's more," he said, pulling a handwritten letter from the envelope. William requested this be read aloud, in front of the family. Jessica scoffed, but her eyes darted nervously. Ellie handed him the letter, her voice low. "He wrote this a week before he passed." Callahan unfolded the paper, its creases worn but William's handwriting bold. "To my dearest Sarah," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the words. "You were my soldier, my pride, the one who carried my fight when I couldn't. Your scars from war are medals of courage, not shame. I saw how they pushed you away, how they dimmed your light to make room for another's. Jessica was their mirror, reflecting what they wanted to see. But you, Sarah, you were my truth." Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't look away. Jessica slumped back, her face twisted with rage. Linda stared at the floor, Thomas at the wall, their silence deafening. "I knew their lies kept you from me," Callahan continued, reading William's words. "But I never stopped believing in you. This center is your mission now, to help soldiers like you find their way home." The room felt smaller, the air heavy with the weight of his love. I clutched my dog tags, feeling William's presence in every word. Jessica broke the silence, her voice venomous. "This is insane. I was there for him, not her." Ellie stood, her frame small but unyielding. "Enough," she said, her voice a whip. "You played a role, Jessica, but it was never love. You're done here." Jessica's eyes widened, but Ellie's glare silenced her. "All of you, out," Ellie said, pointing to the door. Thomas and Linda rose, muttering about legal challenges, but their steps were heavy, defeated. Jessica stormed out, her boots echoing like gunfire. The door slammed, and for the first time, I felt the chains of their lies break. William had seen me, even when I couldn't see myself. The silence after Jessica's storming exit was a live wire, crackling with the aftermath of William's will. Ellie's ranch house, bathed in the harsh morning light of Colorado Springs, felt like a courtroom now, the ghosts of my grandfather's words still ringing in my ears. "You were my truth." My Air Force dog tags hung heavy around my neck, a tether to the soldier I'd fought to become despite the scars of PTSD. Jessica, Thomas, and Linda had thought they could bury me, but William's letter had unearthed their lies, and I wasn't done. My rage, honed by years of their dismissal, burned steady, a flame ready to consume their facade. I stepped forward from the corner where I'd stood during the reading, my boots deliberate on the hardwood, and faced them. The mantel clock ticked like a heartbeat, counting down to the reckoning. Jessica, still lingering near the door, spun around, her eyes blazing. "You think you've won, don't you?" she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "That center should have been mine. I earned it, playing the perfect granddaughter while you were off breaking down in some desert." Her words were a slap, but I didn't flinch. I pulled the cassette from my pocket, the one with William's dying pleas, and held it up like a grenade. "Earned it?" I said, my voice low, dangerous. "You earned nothing but his pity. You fed him lies, Jessica. You told him I didn't care, that I was too busy to come to his bedside. Listen to this." I slammed the cassette into the old player on the coffee table and pressed play. William's voice filled the room, frail but fierce. "Sarah, where are you? I need my soldier." Jessica's face crumpled, her bravado shattering. Linda gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, while Thomas stared at the floor, his jaw tight. "That's your work," I said, pointing at Jessica, my voice rising. "You gave him a fake number, told him I was ashamed of him. You made him die thinking I abandoned him." My chest heaved, tears stinging my eyes, but I refused to break. I turned to my parents, their silence a betrayal louder than words. "And you," I said, my voice ablaze. "You let her do it. You changed the funeral time to 7 a.m., told me noon, and let everyone think I didn't care enough to show. You erased me from his life, from this family, because I wasn't your perfect little trophy." Linda's voice trembled as she stood, her hands wringing. "Sarah, you don't understand. We were protecting the family's reputation. Your issues, your PTSD, it was too much." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that echoed off the walls. "Protecting your reputation? You protected your lies. You let Jessica manipulate his final days while I was 2 hours away, begging to see him." Thomas finally spoke, his voice clipped, like he was addressing a subordinate. "Enough, Sarah. You're twisting history. We gave you everything, your training, your chances." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on his. "No, you didn't. William did. He paid for my flight school, my therapy, every step you refused to take. You called me a failure, but he called me a soldier." Jessica lunged forward, her voice shrill. "You're pathetic, Sarah. Always the victim, always whining. I was there for him, not you." I met her gaze, unflinching. "You were there for his money, Jessica. You played the part, but you never loved him. You stole his trust, his voice, his final moments from me." Ellie, who'd been watching from her armchair, rose, her presence commanding the room. "You're a disgrace, Jessica," she said, her voice cold as steel. "You and your parents turned my husband's love into a transaction. I let it happen too long, but no more." She turned to me, her eyes softening. "Sarah, you were his heart. He knew it, even when they tried to blind him." The room fell still, the weight of truth suffocating. Jessica's shoulders slumped, her defiance crumbling under Ellie's words. Thomas and Linda exchanged a glance, their faces pale, but they had no defense. "Get out," Ellie said, her voice final, pointing to the door. "You've done enough damage." They hesitated, then moved, their steps heavy, as if the house itself rejected them. Jessica cast one last glare at me, but it was empty, broken. The door closed behind them, not with a slam, but with the quiet finality of a war ended. I stood there, my dog tags warm against my skin, feeling the first breath of freedom. William's love had cut through their lies, and I was ready to carry his mission forward. The door's quiet click behind Jessica, Thomas, and Linda left a hollow peace in Ellie's ranch house, like the calm after a firefight. My Air Force dog tags rested against my chest, warm now, as if William's love from that letter had seeped into the metal. The Colorado sun climbed higher, its light spilling through the windows, softening the edges of a room that had just witnessed war. My rage still simmered, but William's words, "You were my truth," were a beacon, guiding me towards something new. Ellie sat across from me, her hands steady, her eyes searching mine. "He built something for you, Sarah," she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard. "The Mitchell Veteran Resilience Center. It's time you saw it." I drove the 5 miles to the center, my truck rattling over the rocky roads of Colorado Springs, my mind replaying the cassette's pleas and the will's promise. The center stood on a 10-acre plot, a sleek, modern building with glass walls and a bronze plaque at the entrance, dedicated to the soldiers who carry the fight home. My breath caught as I stepped inside, the air cool and clean, scented with possibility. The lobby was lined with photos of cued veterans, men and women like me, their eyes haunted but hopeful. A display case held William's Vietnam War medals, polished to a gleam, and beside them, a small frame with my old Air Force photo, taken at 20, my smile unscarred by war. I traced the glass, my fingers trembling. "You kept this?" I whispered, as if William could hear me. A side room revealed the heart of the center, therapy suites with soft lighting, a gym for physical training, and a quiet library stocked with books on trauma recovery. In a locked cabinet, I found a leather-bound logbook, its cover embossed with William's initials. Inside, in his meticulous handwriting, was a note: "Sarah, this is your command post. Heal them as you heal yourself." My throat tightened, tears spilling over, but these were different, clean, not born of rage but of purpose. He'd seen my brokenness and built a place where it could mend, not just for me, but for others. I met Daniel Carter, my old friend from the Marines, in the center's courtyard, where a small garden bloomed with wildflowers. Daniel, his face weathered from Iraq, clapped my shoulder. "William talked about this place for years," he said, his voice gruff. "Said it was for you, to give soldiers a fighting chance at peace." I nodded, my voice catching. I didn't know he believed in me this much. Daniel's eyes softened. "He never stopped, Sarah. Not once." We walked the grounds, the 10-acre expanse dotted with benches and a memorial wall for fallen soldiers. I stopped at a bench engraved with William's motto, "Courage is carrying on." "This is home," I said, the words slipping out, raw and true. The weight of Jessica's lies, my parents' betrayal, began to lift, not gone but lighter, as if William's vision had carved a path through the wreckage. I wasn't just a soldier with PTSD anymore, I was a commander of his legacy. "I'm starting here, Daniel," I said, my voice steady, a spark igniting in my chest. "This center's my mission now." He grinned, the first real smile I'd seen in years. "About time, soldier." The Colorado wind stirred, carrying the scent of pine and promise, and for the first time since Afghanistan, I felt like I belonged. The Colorado sky burned gold as I locked the doors of the Mitchell Veteran Resilience Center, my Air Force dog tags glinting in the late afternoon sun. William's logbook, with its command to heal them as you heal yourself, had become my battle plan. The scars of Jessica's lies and my parents' betrayal, Thomas and Linda's cold dismissal, still ached, but the center was my stronghold, a 10-acre sanctuary where I could rebuild. My PTSD no longer felt like a chain, it was a map, guiding me to help others navigate their own wars. I'd spent weeks transforming the center, hiring therapists, and launching programs, each step a defiance of the family that tried to erase me. Daniel Carter, my Marine brother-in-arms, stood by my side as we unveiled the Soldier Scholars Program, a scholarship for kids of veterans to learn leadership and resilience. The courtyard buzzed with 20 families, their voices mingling with the scent of pine from the nearby Rockies. A boy named Ethan, 19, approached me, his eyes shadowed from his own PTSD after a tour in Syria. "Miss Mitchell," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, clutching a worn notebook. "I wrote a plan for a veterans mentorship group. Will you read it?" My heart swelled, seeing myself in his hesitant hope. "Of course, Ethan," I said, taking the notebook. "William would have loved this." His face lit up, a spark breaking through the darkness. "You think I can do it?" he asked. I nodded, my voice firm. "You're a soldier, Ethan. You're already doing it." The center's impact rippled beyond Colorado Springs. Daniel's documentary, aired on a local news channel, drew national attention, bringing in grants that expanded our therapy suites and funded a mobile clinic for rural veterans. We served over 100 soldiers in 6 months, each story a thread in William's legacy. One evening, as I reviewed Ethan's mentorship proposal under the center's garden lamplight, Daniel sat beside me. "You're building something bigger than you know," he said, his voice thick with pride. "William's watching, Sarah." I looked at the memorial wall, where William's name shone in bronze. "I hope so," I whispered, my fingers tracing my dog tags. "This is his fight, too." The pain of my family's betrayal hadn't vanished, but it no longer defined me. Ethan's courage, the veteran's healing, the center's growth, they were my victory, a testament to William's belief in me. I wasn't just surviving, I was leading, forging a path for those who'd been broken like me. The Colorado wind whispered through the wildflowers, carrying a promise. This was only the beginning. The Colorado dusk painted the Mitchell Veteran Resilience Center in hues of amber, the 10-acre sanctuary glowing like a beacon of hope. My Air Force dog tags rested against my heart, a quiet reminder of William's faith in me. The scars of Jessica's lies and Thomas and Linda's betrayal lingered, but the Soldier Scholars Program and Ethan's courage had turned my pain into purpose. A year after the will reading, an email arrived from Jessica, her name a jolt in my inbox, request to visit the center. I braced for another fight, but when she walked in, she was different. No designer boots, just jeans and a hesitant gaze. "Sarah," she said, her voice soft, almost broken, "I want to see what you've built." I nodded, wary but open, and gave her a tour of the therapy suites, the memorial wall, the garden where Ethan's mentorship group met. She paused at William's bronze plaque, her fingers tracing his name. "I was wrong," she whispered, not meeting my eyes. "I thought I was winning, but I lost him, too." I didn't forgive her, not fully, but I let her stay, teaching communication skills to veterans, her influencer polish now a tool for their confidence. "We're not sisters like in storybooks," I told Daniel later, my voice steady, "but we're learning to be allies." William's words echoed, "You were my truth." His legacy wasn't just the center, it was the chance to rebuild what was broken. "You don't need a medal to be a hero," I said, looking at the stars over Colorado Springs. "You just need to keep fighting for what's right." To anyone watching, here's my lesson: if no one believes in you, believe in yourself. You're the soldier of your own story. Share your mission below, let's fight together.